This is Sheila Smith, and I am one of the district's special education administrators. I am going to review our requirements under federal law for what is called Child Find, including how to respond to parent requests for 504s or IEPs. Child Find is the process that schools use to identify children with disabilities birth through age 21 who need special education. In Kansas, Child Find also includes school-age children who might be gifted and in need of special education. Child Find does not mean that every student for whom we have a concern or who might need intervention should be evaluated. It does mean that if we suspect an exceptionality and a need for special education, we should evaluate. Our district is responsible for all students within our district boundaries. Think about all kids in all environments. If you suspect a child might have an exceptionality and needs special education or a 504, the school's general education intervention process as part of our CI3T system should be used to make a referral. If you are unsure about where to start, you should ask your building principal, school psychologist, or secondary counselor. Sometimes you might be concerned about the timeline for the Child Find process. If so, definitely speak to your principal or school psychologist who can help determine next steps in more urgent situations. Do make sure that necessary accommodations and Tier 2 or Tier 3 interventions are in place. Telling the parent that they need to request an evaluation in writing will not speed up the process and can portray a fairly negative perception of the school to the parent. In some ways, it's akin to saying to the parent, I think your child has an exceptionality, but you have to make this request yourself for anything to happen. Again, if you are concerned about the timeline and process, seek out the principal or school psych. When a parent requests an evaluation, there are two and only two options for our formal response: seeking written informed consent to conduct an evaluation or providing written informed notice that we are not evaluating. We have forms and procedures in place to meet federal requirements, and the school psychologist is typically the staff person assigned to document fulfillment of our legal obligations. The exception would be if the referral is for a potential 504 and no IEP exceptionality is suspected. In those situations, the principal may designate another staff person, such as the nurse or counselor, to respond. What do you do if a parent asks you for an IEP or a 504 or an evaluation? Treat both formal written requests and more informal oral requests equally. First, provide affirmation and acknowledgement to the parent. Parents make these requests because they have concerns about their student. Listening to the parent, letting them know you hear their concern and are taking their concerns seriously can go a long way with building a trusting relationship. Let them know you will pass their concern and request to the principal and school psych and to expect to hear back within a few days. Don't forget to email the principal and school psych after your conversation with the parent. Parents request evaluations in different ways. The cardinal rule is that the parent does not have to use the magic phrase, I request a special education evaluation. Sometimes parents request a 504 or an IEP or testing. Sometimes they provide the school with a letter from an outside agency making the request, or even a prescription for an IEP. Sometimes parents ask where they can get their child evaluated, not knowing we have a process. These are all examples of parent requests to be forwarded to the principal and school psychologist. If the parent does put their request in writing, immediately forward this to the school psych and principal. Often, the parent makes a request, but it's not in writing. Maybe it comes up at a parent-teacher conference or another meeting. Again, provide affirmation and acknowledgement to the parent. It's all right and probably a good idea to go ahead and ask the parent to send their request in writing as a reminder to you. Let them know if they want to make a formal request to put this in writing. Sometimes it's difficult to ascertain whether a parent is requesting an evaluation or asking questions about what the evaluation process entails. Again, provide affirmation and acknowledgement. Let them know you will forward their concerns and questions to the principal or school psychologist for follow-up. Earlier, I mentioned general education interventions and how having a parent request an evaluation does not bypass this requirement. However, we also cannot delay an evaluation or delay our response to the parent's request by indicating we first must use our general ed intervention process. Can we tell a parent we are unable to evaluate until we complete GEI? No. For special education evaluation requests, it is important that the school psych speaks directly to the parent as they have a thorough understanding of our child find obligations. The school psychologist will explain the GEI process, and the parent may choose to withdraw their request. They also may request that the evaluation be conducted without utilizing GEI first. In these cases, if the school suspects an exceptionality and need for special education, GEI may be done as part of the evaluation. Several times I have mentioned forwarding requests to the principal and school psychologist. What if you are the principal and aren't quite certain of your next steps or who to designate? Do be sure to include the school psychologist in conversations to determine if this is a potential IDEA or 504 concern. If you have additional questions after listening to this Child Find training, please discuss with your school psychologist, principal, or one of the district administrators listed here. Remember, our goal is to meet the needs of students. It is critical that we identify and evaluate children with exceptionalities or suspected exceptionalities and who need special education and related services. While our CI3T system and general education interventions are primarily the process utilized to help meet this child find requirement, there are exceptions, including students not enrolled in our schools, but who are in our community. While our goal is not to evaluate every student in need of an intervention, we must be mindful of responsibly meeting our child find requirements and evaluating when we do suspect an exceptionality.